we'll start off with just wondering, why did you decide to run for mayor?
Well, it's nice to chat with you, Sylvia. Um, Winnipeggers are finding my out about my story. I was actually cleaning up a homeless camp near my home in Norwood and realized that a woman had been living in this tree. And it was just at that time I thought, oh, I don't think I could live with the regret of being 75 or 80 and looking back on my life thinking, I think I was supposed to stand up there. As you know, I've been working in the social enterprise sector, so these nonprofit businesses, and it's a very different way of seeing Winnipeg. And this type of thinking has so much potential for us to resolve our these issues that have been that we've been plagued with in so many ways. So, yeah, it was a year ago, April. We've been working pretty hard ever since then.
Well, and that it leads me perfectly into the next question. So, people in Winnipeg, it sounds like, including yourself, overwhelmingly list homelessness and poverty at the top of their issues for this election. What do you plan to help people experiencing homelessness in the city?
Yeah, we had a town hall at the Norwood Hotel a couple weeks ago. It was packed. It was very well attended, and the town hall started out with a shopkeeper that owns a computer shop in the district. Is an amazing this Sri Lankan guy, new to Winnipeg in the last 5 or 6 years. Just so frustrated because of the levels of crime, and he said these are people that are struggling, and the honest truth is, and while the other candidates they're talking about helicopters and firing police boards and police chiefs and more police and less police, here's the truth, Sylvia. People who are committing crime, they're going to do it over and over and over again until they get the access to the interventions that we all know that work. So for me, whether it's when it comes to homelessness, it's not a money problem, it's a systems problem. And governments think that they got to spend more money to resolve it. And that's why there are human beings living in bus shelters in our city and along our riverways. So I've just learned so much being on the front lines about how to modernize relationships between nonprofits and governments. And it's very exciting. We can, the police, for example, who went out 240,000 times last year to calls. They will have a new tool if I'm mayor, a new public safety tool that they'll be able to purchase from nonprofits a reduction in that workload. And that is the type of thinking that's going to get us out of this mess because the solutions are actually cheaper than managing the problems, and we're just using outdated tools.
Hmm. So, I mean, that then those two things seem to be tied. And I was going to say, like, crime is also at the top of the list. What needs to be done to reduce crime? But these sound like they're interchangeable.
Yeah, well, they're interchangeable for a couple reasons. One is that the police are responding to disturbances which aren't serious, but it takes up an enormous amount of their time. So I want to free them up to focus on the actual criminals. Um, and the second thing is that a lot of people who are committing crimes, they just do it all the time. And there's no number of helicopters that's going to change that. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. And the politicians, they love talking about things like helicopters because it tricks the public into thinking that that's the solution, whether there's more helicopters or less helicopters, or more police or less police. So I've been working in the social enterprise sector, and Winnipeggers are finding out what a new idea looks like. And these are nonprofit businesses. One of them I'll talk about is called Build, Build, and we have about I'm actually yeah we have about 100 people at a time on the payroll, 100 people with criminal records, and they're working. We introduce them to a punch clock. It's actual accountability, but at the same time, we're saying to them, "You can do this. You're an amazing person. You've had a rough life, but this causing problems, committing crimes, it's done. you got to leave that behind. You got an opportunity here to actually do something awesome with your life, and we believe in you. We see potential in you. And you know what, Sylvia? They respond, and they're happy, and they get paying taxes and doing productive things, and eventually they even get their kids back. And that's the kind of Winnipeg that we all want. And we're only going to get there if we got the political courage to do things differently. And we're seeing Winnipeggers are paying attention. I'm up 8 points in the polls. Glen Murray's down 4. We're closing in on them, and I need Winnipeggers to get in behind us and say, yes, we want an actual safe city. We want a city that's built around opportunity and giving people meaningful work rather than living on riverbanks and causing problems for shop owners. Enough is enough. And I think that's what we're offering Winnipeggers, and Winnipeggers are noticing.
Hmm. A lot of top issues might also involve provincial or federal jurisdiction. How do you plan to improve relationships with other government?
Oh, I love this question. So the beautiful thing about our model is that when nonprofits such as Build or a supportive housing provider supporting people who are currently unhoused, living in bus shelters, when they provide their interventions, it's not just the police that benefit. It's also the provincial systems, health and justice in particular. And in the United States, hospitals are building housing for people who are homeless. Why? Because it saves them money. And so these new tools, which I'm describing, these new modern tools, is that the health system can pay for the health benefits that nonprofits are providing, and the justice system can pay for the benefits to reduction in justice workloads, reduction to people incarcerated, the reduction in court appearances, the reduction in legal aid. Those are all very valuable things. And when we set up a system where we can compare business as usual, the financial impacts of business as usual, to doing things differently that work, and let these systems decide which one is better financially for them and which one reduces their workload the most. And they'll choose the one that makes the most sense. And they don't have that tool right now. And if I'm mayor, they'll have additional tools. And these additional tools, let me tell you, they're powerful.
This spring especially highlighted the city's crumbling road infrastructure. How do you
Mhm.
plan to address this?
Awesome question. Well, we announced a fix it first policy. And here's the honest truth again, Sylvia, that we're spending way too much money building new infrastructure, and we can't afford to look after the infrastructure that we have. So my policy is simple. We're gonna look after what we have first. And some of my competitors have announced $1 billion of new roads in Winnipeg, and I'm afraid to say the financial situation in the city is such that we can't make that commitment right now. I mean, I'd love to see more roads, but we just can't afford it. And it's really hurting us bad in so many different levels. Crumbling infrastructure throughout the city. I mean, we're all talking potholes, but we're building bad. We got to learn to build better. We'll be making an announcement about that soon. And we're not looking after the infrastructure that we have. So that'll be my priority. And I think Winnipeggers will see a much better system when we focus on the stuff we already got.
Hmm. That is a great segue into my next question as well. Where is the money going to come from to accomplish what you hope to do?
Another good question. Well, we're by far the stingiest campaign in terms of new spending. And you'll notice the things I've been talking about aren't about spending more money. They're It's actually about spending differently. And when it comes to the police, for example, this is a big shift to give them this new tool, but it's a public safety tool that they have. And so we're not reducing the police budget. We're giving them a new public safety tool, which is more effective than the ones that they're using now for responding to a good chunk of their dispatches. And so I just don't, I feel that most of our issues, they're not money issues. And spending more money isn't going to get us out of them, and spending less money isn't going to get us out of them. But, you know, realizing that problems have solutions, and the solutions are usually cheaper than managing these problems. To me, I'm real excited about that. We haven't made our tax announcement yet, but we will soon. I'll just let you know it's not going to be earth shattering because I don't think we're going to solve our problems with money. We're going to do it by thinking harder, thinking smarter, and employing gang members that's smart, and it saves taxpayers money. Supportive housing, uh, if applied to people who are interacting with emergency services all the time, does not cost money. It actually saves money. We just need new monetary tools, modern tools, to make sure that our systems are recognizing that. And they're just way outdated. And you know what's happening now is the politicians are just funneling money to try to manage these workloads. You know, try to keep police times, response times in check, try to get those ambulances out when we need them. But you know, pouring money into these things, it's just not working. And Winnipeggers are finding out that almost half of our operating budget is now on emergency services. So if we're wondering why is there no money, not enough money for libraries, for fixing our roads, for recreation, for parks, all so much of our tax increases are going to try to keep up to the emergency service workload increases. And I have just experienced that Winnipeg needs to reduce those workloads, and I can't wait to get to it.
Where can people find out more about your platform?
Yeah, they can go to shaunforwinnipeg.com. And I'd also like to SHAUN for winnipeg.com. And I'd like to invite your listeners, I'd just like to ask them one thing. If they're frustrated with Winnipeg, we have an amazing 5-minute campaign video. It's very emotional. You're going to meet people that I've been working with and see what's possible for Winnipeg when we think differently. And if they enjoy the video, to forward it to their friends. It's been a real asset for us to be able to introduce who we are to Winnipeggers in one click.
Thank you so much for your time this morning, Mr. Loney. We are going to get this up on our websites and let people know who you are.
Awesome, Sylvia. Yeah, really appreciate you reaching out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Once I get the article up, I'll send you and Tom a direct link.
All right, much appreciated. And we'll repost.
Sounds great. Thank you
Okay,
again.
Sylvia. Yeah,
Thanks.
have a good day.